Have you ever wondered how a crocodile ends up as a luxury handbag or an exotic dish in a high-end restaurant? Behind that image of a wild reptile we associate with rivers and swamps, there's a multi-million-dollar industry that transforms millions of specimens into skin and meat every year. We're not talking about nature in its purest form, but rather farms designed as living factories, where every egg, every hatchling, and every inch of skin are part of a carefully calculated production machine. Under the intense tropical heat, on vast tracts of land surrounded by walls and security fences, one of the most controversial industries of the modern world thrives: crocodile farming. These reptiles, considered true survivors of the prehistoric era, are raised on farms designed not for conservation or research, but to turn them into luxury items and a source of exotic meat destined for international markets. We're not talking about wildlife documentaries, but rather a carefully structured business where every detail is designed to transform the animal into a commercial asset. Have you ever wondered how a crocodile's skin ends up in a handbag worth tens of thousands of dollars? Or how its meat, almost unknown to most, reaches high-end restaurants around the world? This process is neither improvised nor artisanal. It is a production machine that operates with surgical precision, where every stage, from the incubation of the egg to the tanning of the skin, is regulated by strict protocols. The global crocodile business exceeds $9 billion annually, and demand continues to rise. But behind these figures lie investment, risks, technological advances, and a growing controversy. Today, we'll explore this complex mechanism, observing step by step how millions of crocodiles are raised to supply an industry sustained by the human desire for exclusivity. In this business, the future begins long before the animal takes its first breath. It all begins in an artificial nest, carefully constructed to mimic what nature would do on its own. After mating, the females lay their eggs in spaces prepared by the keepers. There, layers of warm sand simulate the conditions of a wild habitat. However, the most important thing happens next. The eggs are collected and transferred to specialized incubators. These machines maintain precisely controlled temperature and humidity, as even a slight change of a couple of degrees can determine the sex of the animal. Between 29 and 34 degrees Celsius, the egg is determined by the temperature. Incubation lasts 65 to 90 days. During this time, each egg is monitored tirelessly, because in this industry, each embryo represents an investment. Even the slightest irregularity triggers emergency protocols to prevent losses. When the shells finally hatch, tiny replicas of their parents emerge. Despite their tiny size, they retain their wild instincts intact. Therefore, they are immediately taken to breeding tanks with clean, temperature-regulated water and constant veterinary supervision. The first few weeks are critical. Mortality can be high, so care must be meticulous. What began as a fragile egg buried in sand has now become a tiny reptile ready to embark on a journey within an international production chain. Once they're past their most vulnerable stage, the juvenile crocodiles are moved to specially designed breeding areas. These aren't natural lagoons, but controlled facilities, tanks with filtered water, dry resting areas, and automatic oxygenation and cleaning systems. One of the biggest problems at this stage is cannibalism. To prevent this, animals are separated by size. If unequal animals are housed, the larger ones attack the smaller ones, causing losses and injuries that lead to infections. Their feeding also follows a meticulous protocol. Their diet consists of fish scraps, chicken, and protein supplements designed to optimize growth. They are fed several times a day, in quantities measured according to the weight and age of each batch. Giving them too much can contaminate the water. Giving them too little slows their development. As they grow, the animals are moved to larger enclosures. This not only gives them additional space, but also decreases population density and reduces the risk of disease. The water is constantly filtered using industrial systems that require expensive and specialized maintenance. The growth period lasts between 12 and 24 months. During this time, veterinarians and technicians monitor their weight, behavior, and health. Weak or sick specimens are removed immediately to avoid affecting the rest. On these farms, each tank is treated with the same rigor as an operating room. When the crocodiles reach between 1.5 and 2 meters in length, the decisive moment arrives: slaughter. This is the most delicate phase, both technically and ethically. The selected animals are transported to processing facilities where regulated methods are applied to reduce suffering. Many countries require prior sedation to prevent stress. Slaughter is carried out quickly to preserve the meat and, above all, the skin. Once the process is complete, the skinning process begins. Workers use techniques perfected over decades, with the goal of obtaining pieces of hide without scars, cuts, or blemishes. Every inch of leather counts, as a good quality hide can easily cost over $1,000. The hides are refrigerated and shipped to tanneries, mainly in Europe and Asia. There they are washed, softened, dyed, and prepared to be transformed into luxury handbags, shoes, belts, and wallets. World-renowned brands, such as Hermès, Louis Vuitton, and Gucci, have been among their main buyers. In the crocodile industry, virtually nothing is wasted. Each processed specimen represents a source of raw materials that are utilized in various sectors, making this reptile a highly valuable commercial resource. Meat, although still a rarity for many, has managed to establish itself in specific markets where it is considered a healthy and exclusive food. Its nutritional profile is one of its main attractions. It contains very little fat, provides high levels of protein, and offers a distinctive flavor often described as a cross between chicken and fish. This uniqueness makes it a prized product in exotic cuisine and an increasingly popular ingredient in luxury restaurants seeking to differentiate themselves with unique offerings. The most prized cuts are the tail, loin, and legs, cuts that offer the best texture and most delicate flavor. These fragments are processed under strict sanitary controls, vacuum-packed and frozen to ensure their preservation during international transport. Their main destinations are China, Thailand, and the United States, countries where demand for crocodile meat has grown steadily in recent decades. Beyond meat, other byproducts expand the animal's profitability. The ground bones are converted into fertilizers used in agriculture. The organs are used for scientific and pharmaceutical research. And certain extracts derived from its fat and tissues find applications in the cosmetics industry, especially in natural creams and treatments. This diversification allows each specimen to represent a considerable income. The total economic value of a processed crocodile can exceed $2,000, depending on the quality of its skin and meat, as well as the destination of each of its parts. In this way, the reptile not only fuels a fashion and luxury industry, but also sustains an extended production chain that connects food, agriculture, science, and cosmetics. Although meat represents a significant portion of crocodile production, the true backbone of this industry lies in luxury fashion. In major design capitals such as Paris, Milan, and Tokyo, products made from crocodile skin have become symbols of prestige and exclusivity. The mere presence of this material on a handbag, belt, or pair of shoes is enough to associate it with high social status. Among the most notable examples is the iconic Hermès Birkin bag, sometimes crafted from genuine crocodile skin. Its base price easily exceeds $40,000, and at private auctions it can fetch even higher sums. This value is due not only to the quality of the raw materials and craftsmanship, but also to the rarity and limited availability of the pieces. Exclusivity is a fundamental part of its appeal. Few units in circulation, long waiting times to obtain them, and a material considered almost impossible to replace. The selection process for the hides destined for these brands is extremely strict. Only a small fraction of the production manages to meet the standards required by haute couture. Priority is given to a homogeneous texture, the absence of visible scars or marks, and impeccable tanning to ensure durability and a uniform finish. Each hide that reaches this level is treated as a unique piece, destined to become a luxury product to be displayed in exclusive showcases around the world. At the same time, crocodile meat has also found a place in elite consumption. High-end restaurants offer it as a unique gastronomic experience, designed for diners seeking different and unusual flavors. Presented as an exotic delicacy, its consumption reinforces the idea of exclusivity, this time transferred to the culinary realm. But this multi-billion-dollar industry walks a fine line. Animal rights organizations denounce the living conditions and slaughter of crocodiles, arguing that it is an unnecessary and cruel practice. Some reports have revealed questionable practices on certain farms, sparking global outrage. In response, several luxury brands, including Chanel, have stopped using exotic skins. Others have strengthened traceability and animal welfare controls to maintain their reputations. At the same time, governments and associations have implemented certifications that seek to guarantee sustainable practices and responsible species management. However, there are grey areas where controls are weak or non-existent. This raises an inevitable question. To what extent is it justifiable to raise millions of crocodiles solely to supply the luxury market? The debate about the crocodile industry transcends producers, farms, and fashion brands. The discussion also reaches society as a whole, because in a globalized market, the continuity of any activity depends on demand. Each consumer, with their purchasing choices, contributes to sustaining a chain that begins far from shop windows and luxury restaurants. Behind every crocodile skin handbag, every belt displayed in exclusive shop windows, or every dish served in an international restaurant, there is a process that begins on precisely designed farms. There, an egg buried in artificial sand marks the beginning of a months-long journey. Incubation, controlled growth, slaughter, processing and distribution. What at first glance appears to be a finished product is actually the last link in a complex production chain, rigorously planned and sustained by thousands of workers, technicians and salespeople. This activity cannot be understood solely from an economic perspective. It is part of a network of cultural, social and ethical factors. Luxury has turned crocodile skin into a symbol of exclusivity, while gastronomy has elevated the meat to the status of an exotic delicacy. However, at the same time, critical organizations and sectors point to the need to transform breeding and slaughter practices, demanding higher standards of animal welfare and sustainability. In this context, each piece of tanned leather or each cut of packaged meat represents much more than a commercial product. They reflect an activity that moves billions of dollars annually, generates jobs and exports, but also faces increasingly serious ethical and social questions. The truth is that behind every accessory made from crocodile skin and every dish prepared with its meat lies a long, silent story. A story that begins not in the shop window or on the table, but in a place hidden from the public. A farm where, beneath the warmth of the sand, a tiny egg marks the beginning of an entire productive chain that connects the life of an animal with the most exclusive corners of international trade.